1720 turn. Command phase is looking the same as it has. We're going to try to maneuver the 3rd Division to go against the French. Over at Ligny, we're going to see almost all of the Prussian command centered here. The French are continuing on their way. A lot of cavalry initiative this turn, but otherwise shaping up to look normal. The Allies move first. They're going to try to charge that Landwehr cavalry, and Landwehr cavalry doesn't like to charge. Only one passes this morale check and decides to go after that ammunition wagon. Easy target, and it effectively disables those guns because they have no ammunition. Another leader casualty for the Allies. They're taking them pretty heavily. It's going to continue to affect their command situation. The assaults here by the 3rd Division don't go very well. Fails his pre-melee morale check, retreats, and some cascading retreats push back. The artillery chit has no effect, but the French then draw, and it's their turn to move. They're, of course, going to charge because we're always charging the French cavalry. The goal is to clear out that Prussian cavalry. Those 2 Lancer regiments have a bounce, which causes a morale check failure for one of the Prussians. 2 casualties inflicted, but also a morale check failure for the Prussians. So effectively, we did clear out that Prussian cavalry. On the Quatre Bras field, those Lancers charge. The Hanoverians form square, but the other Hanoverian Jägers retreat, and then the Landwehr fails and has to retreat and pursue and lose 4 increments. Another leader loss. That is the final leader for the Brunswick contingent. See the casualties. That 3 casualty was pretty effective. And here on the Ligny field, more casualties denoted by the markers. And those Prussian squares are getting pounded by the French artillery. The French are going to conduct their assaults here at Quatre Bras, and they manage to disorder the unit and force him back, taking that hex. Here at Ligny, pretty good outcomes. They're going to be pushing forces back across the way here, though they do fail in one position there. They regroup, reinforcement, and have no big effect, but we have the 1st Division that is going to enter. Not sure where to bring them in, so the road is blocked. So we rather carelessly decide to bring them in south of the road. They move in thinking they can get on the rear of the French 6th Division. Now they can't have any combat this turn, so we'll see how that goes. 1 leader returns from casualty for the Prussians, and the French heavy cavalry brigade arrives at Quatre Bras. A little bit of leader maneuver, of course, and then the end of the turn. We see our final positions here. Not a lot changing on the Quatre Bras field. The 1st Corps, 1st Division is going to try a little gambit there. Otherwise, we see the Guards starting to move forward as the French reposition to allow their attack to go forward. And at the east side of the field, nothing's going on with the 3rd Corps in their attack, and the French are just holding in place. In the 1740 turn, plenty of command again, and it's been allocated pretty similarly each turn. We're going to attempt to blunt the Guard Division there for the French, whereas the Prussians are using almost all their command here in the center position. Same for the French. Now they do use some command there on the east side, but the French draw first, and that's important because they're able to blunt the 1st Division there for the British. Plenty of leaders, plenty of casualties taken across the field for fire combat, as well as some retreats. The melee phase, the Prussian squares continue to get pounded. The melee phase has the French again pushing back the 9th Brigade there at Quatre Bras and solidifying their hold on the crossroads. Here at Ligny, you're going to have some pretty decent results, some mixed results, some advances, but also a failure. Then the Allies are able to draw, and boy, they're in bad shape. The movement isn't much. It takes a fair number of casualties across the front. A lot of casualties and retreats for the Prussians, and the cascading retreats are starting to harm them as well. Leader movement. The rest of the action chits will start to unfold. A little bit of repositioning, but now we come to the end of the turn, and we're going to look at morale levels. The 7th Division, though still battered, recovers, while the 1st Corps finally falls to a morale level 1. The Nassauers are still on 2. The positions haven't changed very much. That 1st Corps, 1st Division really didn't make much of a dent in things. The Prussians are moving the 2nd Corps to try to take over for the 1st Corps, while the French are repositioning the 3rd and 4th Corps. And some kedging occurred for the 3rd Corps. Well, no surprises. I continue to make an absolute mess out of the English efforts here at Quatre Bras. So the major reinforcement, and really the final reinforcement, is the 1st Guard Division here. And I kind of noticed that the 5th edition rules do not have an entry on how to handle reinforcements, specifically when their entry area is blocked. Other rule sets did, so I sort of referred to them and chose the one I liked the best. So that meant I could bring in the reinforcements, south or north of the road. Now the smart thing would have been to bring them in north of the road here. Get them across the stream, form up, try to push back in an orderly fashion. But no, I decided that there was this whole open space over here. And if I brought them across here, in the next turn, if I could get the first chit pull, I could then storm and really break up the French 6th Division here. Of course, that failed. Take a bold gamble, and it cost me. French drew first. They were able to put some forces in front here. And then I was sort of stuck in this quandary of being right next to the map edge. Do I risk an assault, a failure, and a retreat that takes me off the map edge and lose the forces forever? So I opted to go for some musketry here for the first turn on the map. That has not gone well. They took some losses in. Now the 1st Division is stuck here. The 3rd Division is stuck because they have no leaders to move them, well, except for the Hanoverians, but the British Brigade can't move. So this whole side of the field is just a complete disaster. Really, the Quatre Bras game is devolved into an attrition. The French are just smashing up this leaderless force, this mass over here, and waiting, just biding their time. So that's unfortunate. Speaking of leaderless, much of this is the Brunswick contingent. Every single leader in the Brunswick contingent has been removed from the game. So they have no one to command anything. So there's really nothing left for them to do except stand there, exchange fire, take losses, and then retreat. No way for them to advance or even reform the lines, since they can't move in any reasonable fashion. Oh boy, the Dutch Belgians remain here. It's funny. They've taken such a horrible loss, and yet now they're becoming the only viable force because they're the only ones with any leaders that can actually form them up and do something. So maybe they can form a defensive line that will potentially hold. But as an offensive force, they're definitely spent. And really the same goes for the British brigades over here. So much has occurred in the way of casualties and retreats here at the crossroads going all the way to the east that there's kind of nothing left to fight with. We actually have the 8th Brigade here that's in fairly good shape, but they're extremely exposed. And then this French artillery line has really done a lot of damage. And the 9th Brigade is seriously depleted. So the possibilities of reclaiming this field are extremely remote. Bad play as well as some bad luck. It's becoming a real scrum here at Ligny. The French III Korps is kind of veering off to the west, northwest, while the IV Korps is veering off to the northeast. And the purpose is to make way for the Guard. The Young Guard is the first, and the artillery is the first across. Their goal is to set up basically right in through here, and then prepare for the final attacks. The Prussians are just trying to extricate the remnants of the First Corps, which has finally succumbed to their first morale level, and then move up the Second Corps. Well, unfortunately, that's going to leave them, very exposed, because they won't have much in the way of reserves left. But that's their best chance, I think, at this point to try to stem the tide. The French Third Corps has taken some losses, but they're still a pretty effective force. The Fourth Corps is really down to the 12th Division. 13 and 14 have been chewed up so badly that they can't really fight much anymore. So they'll probably get themselves over here and make ready to assault if necessary. But the next major French endeavor will be the Guard, going all the way back to the Old Guard here. To that end, Napoleon is ready with all three of his corps in command range. Two of them currently activated. For the most part, it's been going the French way here. Though there's a couple of pockets of decent Prussian resistance. Now that they're scrambling to form a line, they're going to have to give up some ground in order to gain some stability. This block of artillery is basically just going to get themselves out in opposite Ligny, which brings us over to the far east. The attempt to feint by Thielemann has been pretty awful. We did not spend a lot of command on them in the last two turns because their position was just so weak. The only movement was through the dreaded kedging as they dragged forward a couple of brigades. May be necessary to try again, but their ability to maneuver is so weak, and the amount of command it takes to get anything done is really prohibitive. So we might spend one command point to keep somebody moving, but frankly, without any real cavalry, they just don't have enough to counter what the French have. But that'll probably be the next effort. Move up artillery, and then try to get cavalry on the flanks. See if we can dislodge and put some pressure on the French.